Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and I have had this amazing human on my podcast once before and maybe twice. I can't remember. I don't know if you came back and joined me for a special I was doing, but either way, I'm so excited to have him back with me here today. So Dr. Eduardo Cardona-Sanclemente, he's an integrative medicine doctor with a focus on Ayurveda and has a new book launch that I said, oh my gosh, it's right up my alley. So welcome.
Thank you.
I told you, right before we hit record, when we last spoke and you told me, gosh, it was 3 years ago. I can't believe it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
I was just about a year into my recovery from mold toxicity and still had a rash lingering. So I still have that going on. So I just recently switched to the Mediterranean diet and eating just very focused on anti-inflammatory foods and anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And so I love it that your new book is Ayurveda for Obesity and Gut Health, because that's what I've been diving into is gut health. So yeah, can you talk to us about the inspiration behind this book?
The inspiration. Okay, that comes from long time ago. And it's difficult really to put the pointer with my fingers when, because honestly, Teri, when I was very young, I was so inquisitive about bodies. And I mean about size and about, physical bodies. And I remember my parents were always controlling me. Don't ask, don't do that. Because I was saying, why this person is big? Why this person is that? But I was asking in front of them, why is so slim? And this very strange because years after all this kind of a child trying to analyze physical manifestations, after that, the whole thing changed more because I was more into the body-mind connection. And that was like, in a way that I didn't see coming, the question of the body became less interesting. And I was looking more at the body-mind interaction in different people and how factors were affecting them, including my sisters and other members of my family, because you see the changes and you wonder if it's what is related to that. And later on, when I went to university, I have the great chance that I started studying clinical biochemistry and physiology. And I was in a very much context of basic medical sciences. And that put me in tune with all the aspects which relate diet, nutrition, and metabolism. And from that moment, that was it. I got completely heart bite. And then I moved to other things. And how do I say, before I moved to, I was born in South America. So before I moved to France for continue my studies, I was very lucky because I have a very bad car accident and I went downhill with my ex girlfriend and we were considered dead. And I was told that my arm needed to be amputated. My arm needed to be amputated. They were not giving one single penny for our lives. And fortunately, I encountered in my life through my previous years Indians, but Indians from South America who offered me the possibility to use cataplasm and things like that. And that was very good. That again took me back to university and more degrees, academic ones, until I finished all my degrees and I went to India. And that was it. I went to India in 1986. And that was the major achievement of my life because I understood that that connection was real, that body mind is, I mean, people in modern medicine, we divorce the two things and let's leave aside even considering the soul, you know. So and they have this, they see us as a unit. And I was very impressed. And well, sorry, I can keep going on and going on talking about those things, but if you want, I stop there and we move again to other matters. But yes, and I was living full time for a good time in the US after more than 20 something years in 30 years between Paris and London, where I was a professor at university and when I was a scientist supervising PhD students, etc. And then I moved to the US because I was invited to do it. And the real started of the book per se, to go to the nitty-gritty of your question, was when I was invited as a main speaker at a NAMA conference, which is the National Ayurvedic Medical Association, and that was happening in Palo Alto. And I went, and I because they knew about my studies on cholesterol, lipoproteins, and the interface with Ayurveda, they invited me to give a talk, and I gave a talk on obesity. And it was fascinating because I was sitting there talking to people who understood Ayurveda, most of them, or some of them, much better than me. And at the same time, sorry for the comment, but they were big. Some of them were big. So I was thinking, it's fascinating that all these stereotypes and all these ideas, and all the way we put people into boxes, etc. So I understood honestly that they also were suffering because we all have different constitutions from birth. And that's what Ayurveda called Prakruti. So this book really is my Prakruti, honestly, because I learned to see how Ayurveda 7,000, 5,000 years ago was able to understand constitutions, yeah, and the three main different energies. And yeah, so that became my life. And of course, no need to say I have this situation by which I was so excited with Ayurvedic medicine that I stopped allopathic medicine, even reading peer journals and everything, because I was mesmerized. That's really the word. And for 7 years, I was only a little mouse of Ayurveda in libraries and everywhere. I remember my gosh, the Wellcome Trust and the Wellcome Library and in London. And I was only doing that until I understood, okay, enough. It's time now to put these things together. And so it's something which is this, I will say this book of obesity started when I was perhaps 20, 19 years old. And I was requested to write a book with was Ayurveda for Depression, that we have your beautiful interview last time. And they want me to write on obesity. And I said, no, no, no. I felt that that was important for me as a result of accidents and things, car accidents mostly. I understood that I needed to go deep into myself, into my inner self, to write from a place that I was able to be free and understand and express something different. So I did the book. We discussed about it 3 years ago. And after that, I was thinking, no, that's it. So I start recopilating all my writings on different things on obesity and overweight and by going back and forwards to India, because I have been going to India, as I said, since 1986, and by bringing patients to India and treating my patients in London or in Paris, then in the US, I saw what people call miracles. These are no miracles, it's knowledge. Of course, I believe that miracles happens, but what I see is facts, is that Ayurveda has a way to screen the human being at the level of the body, at the level of the mind, at the level of the soul, and to understand those imbalances so well that you can help people. Really, you can help people without damaging them with surgeries like bariatric surgery or this Ozempic that you know what is going on with, and on all this kind of medication. So yes, it's an honor. I have to say it's an honor when people come to me because I am learning from them and they are learning to love themselves. And I think that I leave it at that level for you to get another question because really, Teri, how to open that flower of loving oneself. Mm? Most people don't like themselves. If they are too slim because they are slim, if they are too fat because they are fat. No, so it's a big challenge, a big mystery, and offers so many possibilities to all of us.
Yeah. And I just want to say I'm such a fan of learning. So I love it that for 7 years you like dove into this, and because I know I call this my soul work, and I just think what you're doing, it's just your soul work. And I'm so glad you're helping people along their journeys. One of the things that really struck me in what you said was, so when I was in my early 20s, I went through two horrific bank robberies. And very oddly, my mom was also in banking, and she went through two very similar bank robberies years prior
Wow.
to, me
Yeah.
going through it. Um, like we both had a gun held to our head. We both were threatened with being killed. Like there were just a lot of similarities. Well, my mom, she turned to alcohol to cope, where I started having panic attacks. And so I had severe anxiety and panic attacks. And so what you're saying is so fascinating to me, because here's two people were very similar, like we looked like twins, other than, I was a foot taller than her. And we had very similar, um, I I guess DNA, because
Absolutely. At least
she made me.
50%.
And yet in these very similar experiences, but we just reacted completely different to it. And so to me, what you were saying about standing up there and looking out into this audience of practitioners and people who knew so much about Ayurvedic medicine, or is it Ayurvedic? Is it medicine? Is it
Yes, it is.
okay?
It is. It's recognized by the OMS. Is recognized in the US. That's why we have this association, the NAMA,
Nama.
National Ayurvedic Medical Association, and I am recognized by them after presenting all my qualifications and exams and things as an Ayurvedic doctor. So in the US, we have Ayurvedic doctors. Right. They are not integrated with the allopathic medical system, but I understand that the association is working very hard in that direction. There are people with enormous values, moral and intellectual, and convinced that they are going to do it. I never have been a political person or this kind of nature. No, I am more into being with one person, with one patient, or and enjoy that interaction. But they are very, very, very special people within the NAMA Foundation institution. Sorry, no, it's not a foundation. And so yes, they are doing their best. And
Wonderful.
it happens in Germany. Germany is developing Ayurveda enormously. Italy, I moved to Spain. I kind of say I moved to Spain. I live part-time in Spain because I'm trying to develop Ayurveda here. I created an Ayurvedic medical association here. So we have very small number of members. Everything is tiny, tiny, tiny. But we have to present Ayurveda to the world because it's coming into here. And I don't know if you know, but for example, the medical Mayo Clinic, Rochester, you look, they offer Ayurveda consultations also. Yes, so that is talking miles about how things are trying to approach it. No,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm so happy about that, because I obviously lean towards natural, holistic healing methodologies, and the whole mind, body, soul connection absolutely speaks to me. personally, and that's how I did my healing. And so to me, again, I'm not anti-pharmacy, but throwing a pill at something is not getting to the root cause. It's not, when I was so sick when we first moved here from the mold poisoning, it was, oh, here, take this antidepressant because you're crying about it. And oh, here, take this statin because your blood pressure's up, whatever it was. Like they just were like, here, pill. And I was like, whoa, hold up. Why is my body reacting like this? I need to know what the root cause is. And so, yeah, that to me, it just makes so much sense.
Yes, and it's very interesting what you said, because they make people passive and always expecting that the solution will be on that tablet and not on an effort. And that is the major difference with Ayurveda, which invite people to come and join the Ayurveda protocols. But the real situation with Ayurveda is very hard, because you have to sacrifice your little lifestyle, the little comfort of I have to have an ice cream every night, or even in winter. And I mean, all these little things that creates a completely imbalance of the body. And Ayurveda teaches from the moment we start the day until we go to bed is something which is called the Dinacharyas and the Ruticharyas. And you see Dina from day, because there are a lot of words which come from the Sanskrit in English, in Spanish, in all the day, and it teaches precisely the way to act and the way to respect our body. But of course, I repeat, it's a sacrifice to do that. But when you get into the style, you realize that you you are extremely happy and balanced. So you don't, and so I cannot even find words to explain, because it happens to myself too. I am a human being, and as everybody, sometimes I can try to eat something which is not convenient because I am with a group of people, because I have been invited for dinner and I cannot refuse. So I don't have dinner ever, by the way, but when I go out, I have dinner. So these kind of things imbalances. So I have to rebalance myself. And just give you an example, very simple, that perhaps will be interesting for the people who will be eventually listening to this exchange we are having. There is in Ayurveda something called Triphala. And Triphala, which I recommended to you and to everybody, is a very interesting compound of three fruits: Haritaki, Vivitaki, and Amalaki. They are from India. One is the gooseberry, yeah, that we know as gooseberry here. And these are collected as when they are green, as green fruits, and then they are pulverized. They make it as a powder, and that is what you take. And if you take by night time, a teaspoon of Triphala is is an incredible antioxidant. It help your digestion in such a way. And let's say if you have been eating a bit too much or drinking a little more than what you are supposed to have, it's not it's amazing. So it's just one example of the millions of formulas that Ayurveda has. And some are, as I said, 3 compounds, some are 20 compounds, some are 100 different herbs together, you see, and the special cautions of the herbs. Others are taken natural. Is also the use of minerals. Yeah. So because for Ayurveda, since the cities of the doctors of Ayurveda were living with nature, because there was nothing else. There was all this concrete and all what we have around. So they were touching with their feet the ground, and they were living there and trying to survive, isn't it? So they were observing nature non-stop in order to survive. And that's how the whole thing develops. And that's what is so ancient. And at those days, they didn't even have writing. No, that didn't exist. So Ayurveda was passing to from generation after generation via what is called in Sanskrit slokas. It's like, but when you learn a song, you are going to sing it after listening two, three, four times, but you are not going to change the words. You use the same words. You see the beauty at the level of what is going on here. So by not changing the words, that they understood that that was the best way to continue singing these slokas, these verses. And when passing hundreds of years like that, and then the Sanskrit writing language appear, and then there is two people who are called Charaka and Shusruta, Indian doctors, what we call the fathers of medicine in reality, who took this information and copied and put it on paper, and we have them today because of that, despite hundreds and thousands of years, and especially despite, the British were there for 250 years, but fortunately Ayurveda didn't disappear. Only also the Muslims were before. So yes, that is a little bit of history, because it's also a fascinating thing about the history of Ayurveda, and because there is that reality which is presented by documents, is well documented. And there is also the view of other people in India that there is a god of Ayurveda, which is called Dhanvantari god. And this Dhanvantari was a semi-god and was connected to Vishnu and came to teach people Ayurveda. So it's fascinating. I don't know if you read the Mahabharata or you know about the Mahabharata story between is part of the Vedas, and they are so rich in imagination and in reality at the same time, because it's this connection always grounded to nature, to their own nature. No.
Yeah, yeah. I'm 100%. I say yay to all of it because I am such a fan of. I had something happen recently, and I had somebody say, well, why haven't you gone to the doctor? And I'm like, because the last time I went to the doctor, they wanted to throw all these steroids and all this stuff at me, and I was like, no, 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 no. That's not. And
Yeah.
they thought I was crazy. And I love it when I talk to people who understand like what I know, and I don't
Yes.
know how to explain it other than I just know that's not what's for my body.
And what is beautiful in what you just said also, Teri, is that there are so many medications, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, which induce obesity in the body. You see, there are so many. You know that there are the steroids, the corticosteroids. You have the pill, yes, which is definitely a major one. The antidepressants, the antihypertensive. All these molecules for the mood and all these kind of things. They have side effects, and something which is I found important, because I have a problem. I always want to communicate so much, but there is always the limitations of the in life always. But when people understand that a cell is a live organism, and because it's alive, it's not, people think it's a fat cell, is dead and is accumulating there. Not at all. It's alive, it's innervated, it's irrigated, and the fat cell contains plenty of water also, because imagine it's all this energy was not compartmentalized by water, the whole thing will be burning, isn't it? It's true when people said, I know fat, I have a lot of water within my body. It's true, but this water is there because it's trying to compensate for the amount of fat which is there. But the point I'm trying to make here is that when we abuse our bodies, we come to our parents with a certain number of cells, fat cells, as in the same way is muscle cells and everything. But if we start from childhood abusing the body start increasing the number of fat cells. And these fat cells will be always hungry. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the normal number will be under control of the normal hormones, but if not, it will be different. So the difference for people, and that's what I talk about the inner self, is when you have this situation, you have really to get into communion. And it's a word I don't use because it's so religious, but can be misunderstood, but it's a real communion with oneself to understand, yes, I am abusing my body, and these cells, I wanted to make them disappear, but I create them. I mean, the extra millions of cells, no, we have been created along the time. So you have to understand that it's not especially in the US, is the war against cholesterol, the war against diabetes. It's always the war, the war, the war. And it's not such a war. It's how to understand that is by taking care. And I come back to the same thing, by loving yourself in the real sense, loving your body, you understand that there are so many things that you do which are completely unnecessary and which are damaging you and destroying you and giving you even more insecurity. No, and the result is that. So I have honestly many cases where the only possibility to work with them, and I feel very grateful, and I feel very grateful to meet them and to try to help them, who are ready to commit themselves into that process. And it's fascinating. I have somebody who lives near you, and what came to me as a diabetes 2, morbid obese, and really in such a state. His wife the same, the children the same, as small kids. And I told him the reality when I saw, the evaluations he brought me about his health. And he said, I'm going to be draconian. And he was so draconian that he's not diabetic anymore. No more insulin dependency. He is now, he's not overweight, he's borderline overweight. And I explained to him, from where you were to where you are, you know, be happy and don't try to become the slimy, chunky, muscular person, because the body suffer in a way. And now we have to keep it at that level. I'm not saying that gradually he cannot go further, but this is the situation. And it's all hormones and it's all epigenetics, because at the end of the day, all what I have been talking about until now is epigenetics. Is, very well, the genes are there, they come from our parents. You know very well, perhaps, that the mitochondria of the mother is the one who produce the mitochondria, the mother within the nucleus, no, is the one who produce the highest level of energy with what we call Agni in Ayurveda. And what happens is that under those circumstances, people who are increasing the number of mitochondria, and that's why so many medications trying to increase them to reduce weight for that reason. But if you do it in a natural way, by exercising a little bit, eating at the right times, it's a question of when, how, and how much. These are the three things that I always feel is very important, and at what time of the day, evidently, because it's the body is such a temple, and we really we miss the lack of respect for our temple. That's my impression, and I include myself. I repeat, I said already, I commit my little peccadillos from time to time, as everybody else, but less and less and less, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, do you still work with people one-on-one?
Yes, I work with people one to one, because I try not to do it, because I don't want this. For us here, it's always a joy, and it's different. But if I have to be with a patient, let's say right now, I have to study the eye, and I cannot do it properly. So they have to send me pictures, and the pictures are not necessarily always the best. One thing I can do, and is I ask you to pull out your tongue, for example, yeah? And I'm not saying you have to do it, but oh, excellent. You see, you have a tongue which is pretty clear, pretty, and the tongue talks miles because the tongue is something which is the only organ which is inside and outside the body is the tongue. There is no other organ. So it's talking about what is going on there. You see, so there is most tongues of people who are imbalanced. I don't want to say obese, I don't want to say anything, is imbalanced or carry a certain pathology. They have a tongue which is not pale rose or red, is mostly covered with a coat of
Yeah.
white, yellowish stuff. And that's what we call in Ayurveda ama. And ama is all that food was not metabolized. Imagine if you don't brush your teeth at night time. There's food that's going to remain in between the teeth, isn't it? That is going to give you an odor which is no good for the mouth. And imagine if you don't clean your tongue. So one of the many, many practical suggestions of Ayurveda is to clean your tongue with a tongue cleaner. Yes, I
Yeah.
don't know if you do that. Some
I
people do
I
with the
do.
brush. Yeah,
Yeah, I use
but
my
do you?
brush and it's got a little
Yes,
scraper on it.
exactly. But did you get? You can get the copper tongue cleaner,
Oh
which
yeah,
costs
yeah.
nothing.
Like the scraper little thing. Yeah.
Exactly, the scraper like that is very, very helpful. That's have been with me since 1986, and I still using the same one. Sounds disgusting, but it's not because it's copper, so you just wash it and that's it, no? So so yes, this is one of the little things of Ayurveda. Anyway, so I prefer you ask me something different because if not, I can keep going on.
Oh no, no, I
Appreciate.
love it. And it's funny that you said that because um that was one of the first things that when I was starting to get like really crazy symptoms, I remember looking in the mirror and sticking my tongue out and being like, why is my tongue covered in this white, yellow, thick? And the more I could brush it all day long or try to clean it and it wouldn't come off. And I was like, there's something really wrong. And that was like at the top of my list of symptoms that there's something going on in my body. Um, and yeah, that was like to me a big sign.
And what was going on with your body was that what we call in Ayurveda your acne, which is your metabolic fire, yeah, which is called Yatra acne, the main one, was not functioning well. And in most people, especially when I have people with depression, because they are depressed, oh, today I'm not going to have breakfast, or today I'm going to eat plenty, or I'm not going to have lunch, or I'm not going to, these moods damage them enormously. So they can move into anorexia or into obesity, aside from the medication, because we already talked about it. Now, with obesity, is the same story. There are so many factors which are involved, no? So many, because people are not respecting the cycle of nature. You see, the body has a certain, when we wake up in the morning, for example, at 8 o'clock, we wake up at 8 o'clock, our levels of cortisol are extremely high. Yeah. And because the body, that's the way we wake us up. Cortisol wake us up, you see. And then gradually along the day, start decreasing. Yeah. And they decrease. And by midday, what happens more or less is that the catecholamines, adrenaline, and serotonin increase, and they induce hunger by liberating certain hormones. So if we are in those following those cycles, our body is able to produce what? The proper enzymes, the proper secretion of hydrochloric acid, the enzymes which are at the level of the stomach, the pancreas produce the most beautiful enzymes, the same. So the process of breaking down food and the process of absorption and integrating all those little molecules then now into the blood stream is something which is very easy. But imagine somebody who is having breakfast at 11 and lunch at 2, or not having anything the day after. So this yo-yo thing, which is so terrible. Or people who work by night.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine people who are forced to work by night. Yes, I remember when I was in Los Angeles visiting friends, one of them told me I have to leave home at 4 o'clock to be at my office by 8. 4 hours sitting in the car. No,
Wow.
and then on the way back, they were people. They were already leaving at certain hours. So some people were leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning, ready, dressed, and everything for work. And so when you see this alteration of a lifestyle, it's surprising that they keep healthy. Yeah, because the mind get affected. And I have been talking about body mind, and that is my main interest when I try to address Ayurveda. In this book, for example, and I'm not selling the book, but in this book, I developed 3 different tests. One is the test of your Prakruti in your natural condition when you are in a state of balance. The second test, which has 50 something questions, the second test is about Vikruti, by which in around 50 questions also is to a state of imbalance. I mean, your actual state of imbalance. So you can see who you were 10 years ago when you were healthy, and you see who you are now. And a third test, which is called Manas Prakruti. And this Manas Prakruti is the state of the mind. Yeah. So you look at that together and you say, my God, I am discovering myself, because, and everybody said the same. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about myself. And I love when patients come with their husbands or their wife or partners, whatever, because they start feeling all this questionnaire, and the other half said, no, that's not true. Change it. I live with you. It's not. So it's hilarious, because we have an image of ourselves which is not
Yeah.
what is really what we are. And we need to have somebody who can look. You look at the mirror and you see everybody feels, I'm too slim, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too that. So there's always a kind of evaluation of what we are. Or there are the narcissists with things that we know so many in the US at this moment that they are living on that state of, but it's only insecurity. And that's what those people with insecurity became like balloons. And they can be controlling so many things, but they cannot control themselves because
Yeah.
of that projection, that image they suffer with. And they go back to the reality, and it's not funny. So what happens? They have to eat and eat and eat, or drugs, or whatever, amphetamines, or so many things that are going on today in our little beautiful planet. But which is quite sad, but it's what we have, no? Yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
and that's why I make of that really, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I make a real mission of Ayurveda, because Ayurveda saved my life. You see, I have 3 car accidents. I have been told I was going to live my life on Prozac and painkillers, I mean, tryptylene, etc. And I didn't even take an aspirin, because I understood I am not going to be dependent of.
Yes.
And that was it. And once you make that effort, you realize that everything is possible in life, that all the limits we build up are only here. They are not here, because here is when you open here, you reconnect. And in my book, I have to, again, I'm not selling anything, but what I have been studying is there is a company called Hard Math. which is very good in California. And then I have been following them, but it's because they talk about as if they were from Ayurveda in terms of there is now, and I'm sure you know about it, this very clear connection between the brain, the heart, and the microbiome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this interconnection is with this one we say I like or I dislike, yes or no, doesn't go further. Yeah. Finally it takes this, but this one here, the microbiome, is the one who produces 90% of the serotonin. Yeah, this microbiome is connected to the heart is connected to the brain by 40,000 neurons, which are in perpetual exchange. And this one is connected to our microbiome. So, and that is interesting because they all correspond to spaces, what we call in Ayurveda, akasha spaces, in brackets, empty spaces. We have an empty space in our lungs and hearts. We have an empty space here too that gets filled up when we put food. But if we are connected and we have an empty space in the brain, but the problem is that we are always thinking too much. So we fill it up with yes and no, and I do that, and all this, completely amazing processing, and which is even worse now with today's technology because we are bombarded nonstop. So the level of disconnection with our bodies today is pathetic. And you see why adolescents are the level of suicide in adolescents today is massive. Here in Spain, we were talking about Mediterranean diets and all these things. Forget about it. These little machines, these little telephones and all these kind of things, I think it's 35%. I was giving a lecture the other, I very bad remembering figures, but the level of depression here and anxiety is massive. And in France is more under control because they live on medication. Everything for France people take, there was a study some years back, I don't know, it's still the same. French people take more medication than the whole European Union together.
Wow.
For this kind of situations. They are very dependent. I repeat, this is a study I read at least 2-3 years ago. I don't know if it's still the same, but the level of dependency, because the magic pill is really something. And we are the first generation with this experiment of the mobile phone. And you see, and in California or here in Spain, because it's always warm, it's always hot, I do see women, they are running with their telephone in their breast or in their button, or men with the telephone in their pockets. These are electromagnetic fields, and they are giving impulse to your body. So we don't know really how much damage they can cause us. And for example, there is studies, many, which makes correlation between the cancer of the ear, of internal part of the, and the use of these iPhones or general telephones, no? So we are exposed to some, let's forget about plastic, which is also is endogenic, induce obesity, no? Because plastic is absolutely shocking. There is what they call the microplastic and the nanoplastics, yeah, and the MNS and the NNS, and these nanoplastics. I'm sure you read that about we are having per month the equivalent of one credit card circulating in our bodies. No,
That's
it's
crazy.
yeah, it's absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. That's what is going on with our bodies because and as simple, and I hope that I'm not diverting, but I said that to everybody. Never ever use plastic when you are cutting your vegetables. People say, "Oh, I only eat good vegetables," and when I ask them, "What do you use to cut?" No, but this very good plastic, which is very solid. You go and look on the site, and you will see how much plastic disappear. Where is that plastic with your food? We have all these contaminants in our water, including, I don't know, you read about it or you hear on the TV, there is the amount of plastic as nanoparticles in our brain for men in the spermatozoids. Why do you think that the count is so low in men today? It's just an example, but it's so all we are bombarded by anti-natural things. So one little suggestion is never use plastic to cut your vegetables. You just use what our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents use, and it's the piece of wood. And what you do, you clean it with water. Don't use soap because the lignin, which is the compound, which is the main compound of wood, will get spoiled after a while. Just put it standing up, receiving light, and that will dry by itself. And then you can use it for years and years and years. And you are not eating plastic. You are not adding, let's put it like that. You're not adding
Right.
plastic to your diet.
Right, right, right. So, well, you know, I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to, one, tell folks where they can find your book and how they can connect with you.
All right. So let's put it like that. The book, you can get it via Amazon for sure. In other countries, there are so many libraries you can order from. It was Inner Traditions is the editor, so you can buy it through them. So you go to, I suppose it has to be innertraditions.com, and you will find it. You can find me via Amazon. I don't use my social media is reduced to WhatsApp because if not, I cannot work because
Right.
if not get bombarded by things.
Yeah.
So, no X, no Instagram, no nothing of those things, not even Facebook. I only use WhatsApp. I I provide my address to you, and perhaps you want to put it once we finish, or do you want me to tell people now what you prefer?
Yeah. Well, I can put it in show notes if you prefer, but
Yeah,
feel
okay,
free to
so I
share it
will.
if you want
So
to.
it's basically at eduardocardona.com altogether. Doctor at eduardocardona.com. People can reach me that way. Also, my website, which is eduardocardona.com, will provide another address. I think it's the same one because I have 2 or 3 addresses. I don't follow that very close. So in any case, people can write to me. And as I said, I try to not to see people, but there are cases that can be seen in this way, Zoom, WhatsApp, etc. And the way I work, to be precise, is I have a pre-consultation, which is people send me their medical history, the family medical history, the main complaints, and they send me what they eat for a period between 3 to 5 days. Yeah, but everything from the moment they wake up, whatever going to the mouth have to be written, and then I receive all that, and I do an allopathic or modern medical evaluation of the condition, because suppose it's high cholesterol or obesity, since we are talking about obesity, and then based on that, I do the consultation, and that consultation is 90 minutes never less, because I don't do the 10 minutes that everybody does. I consider that a bit insulting, to be honest. So at my 90 minutes, and after that, the person, we say goodbye to each other, and I write my recommendations to the person, which can be 10 pages, 20 pages, 25 pages. Sometimes people said, how do you manage to write all that and to read? But this a proper evaluation, because what I do on my own is I put the two together, all the information from the allopathic medicine and all what I have been learning, and I keep studying of Ayurveda. So I put them together and I make my recommendations. I never ask anybody to stop the medication from their medical doctor, the GP. Never, ever. I ask always to consult with them what I am doing, or even to put me in contact with them, because I consider that not only is a question of respect, it's a question of they can have ideas that this curcuma is anti-what, or what I said about Trifala, for example, or many other things. So it's important to establish a dialogue, and I can be directed to the GP, or can be by the intermediate of the patient. That's one thing. And the other thing is that the book, because if I have 1 minute to tell you a little bit about the book, yeah?
Yes.
The book I divided into 6 sections, and to be honest, I am looking at this moment because I am writing another book. So I am going to tell you briefly how I did it. The first part of the book is what is Ayurveda itself, yeah? What we were talking about, the history, blah, blah. Then what is Ayurveda today? Yes, and how we approach our body in Ayurvedic terms compared to the normal ones. The third aspect is the body-mind constitution, what I was saying earlier, Prakruti, Vikruti, Manas Prakruti. Then we move to the participants which are fundamental in our life, which are the gut, your acne, and the microbiome, as I described it earlier, which used to be called the intestinal flora, as most people know it like that. Then my biggest pleasure, and I cannot deny because it was a pleasure, is I move into the main, and that's been an enormous study of peer journals on the main structural and fundamentals of life. So I mean by that, the adipose tissue, which nowadays is considered as an organ for the reasons I was telling you before. Before, adipose tissue was something hanging there. Now it's considered an organ. The fascia, what is the role of the fascia? This invisible fascia, which is playing such a massive role, connecting every single cell and of all types. Then the lymphatics, how effective they are into the process of cleansing, which is so important for obesity. And then the vagus nerve, which is the master of the ceremony, you see. And this master of ceremony doing indicating to the others what is supposed to be done. And to finish, is the last part is the rebalance by proper food and diet. And this is very, very fascinating things, because I have all the tables about how to eat according to your own constitution. Yeah. So these constitutions are called Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and the ones of the mind is called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. According to all that, and this sounds like complicated. It's very simple when you read the book, because it's written not necessarily for the medical doctors or people from the health departments, is for everybody. And then finally is the aspect of, which is very interesting, I wish that you will look at that, is I include a self-massage in order to activate the lymphatic system, because what is happening for all of us is that we don't activate enough. And when we activate it, it's not necessarily in the right way, because we have to take care of these ganglions and the zones where they are. So I have a kind of summary but it's with good details about the lymphatic massage. And then, of course, a questions and answers section. And the books end there, and many, 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 many endnotes of peer journals, which are supporting, because the way I create this net is whatever Ayurveda said, I try to match what modern medicine is saying nowadays, and it's amazing what you discover. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is basically the book, my dear.
All right. I'm downloading it as soon as as soon as we're done. I'm
No,
so
that was not the
excited.
idea.
Sold. Oh
So,
my
so,
gosh. Well, I mean, I absolutely adore you for so many reasons. I just love your energy. I love the work you do. I love your passion. So thank you for sharing it with all of
thanks
us.
to
And
you.
thanks for being here today.
Thanks to
Awesome.
you for inviting me. And I know that you have so many followers, so I hope that that will be of some support to them, as has been for me and for many other people.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All righty. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag Hope for Healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year. And I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.